I'm really excited to be up here with Jenn and Bree to talk through their Brilliantly Boring campaign. But before we get into the actual campaign, let's learn a little bit more about you guys. So, Jenn, tell us about you. What's your deepest, darkest secret?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I've been asked that all of South by.
Yeah.
I will not be revealing that today for career longevity, but I am the Chief Marketing Officer of PNC Bank, and I've been here for almost 2 years now on a really exciting mission to help build marketing as a growth engine. PNC is the 6th largest bank in the U.S. If you find yourself asking that question, who is PNC? You are not alone, and that is the fundamental thesis of why Bree and I are here today to talk to you about Brilliantly Boring. But the other thing about me is I spent most of my career in financial services and largely leading these types of large-scale marketing transformations. So I have a lot of heart for the Everest that we are climbing, and I think we've got a really cool story to share today.
Awesome.
And I'm Bree Rossetti. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Arnold. And we are lucky enough to be Jenn's creative agency and partner. And she is one of the best clients ever. And PNC is just an incredible brand. And I won't share my deepest, darkest secret, but I will share, if you know me, what is a very obvious truth about me. And that is something I have been asked about at South by Southwest, and that is how much I hate LinkedIn. It's just a place I don't go to and I won't go to, and I am sorry for anybody who reaches out to me on there. I swear I ignore everybody in equal measure.
Yeah, I feel much better that she has rejected my LinkedIn request, so that's good.
Thousands just waiting.
My deepest, darkest secret is that I used to be addicted to America's Next Top Model. Do you guys remember that show?
AMTM so good.
AMTM so good. Smize. Yeah, we're doing it. Anyway, so we're going to center most of our talk on this Brilliantly Boring campaign, which is awesome. So this is obviously a little antithetical, and I imagine probably a tough sell in C-suite. We're going to get to that. But I want to talk about, how did you guys partner together? Where did this start? How did all of this magic come to be?
There's a little bit of destiny. So I joined, like I said, June of 2023. I came to PNC very specifically with the mission of helping to transform our marketing organization and with a very clear mandate that we need to do something different with our brand. We are a very nice company, a very nice bank, but we have not found that powerhouse breakthrough way of talking about our story in the marketplace, which means we get that question a lot of, who is PNC? What does PNC stand for? At the time that I was coming in, the business had already decided that we were going to undergo the RFP process to bring in a new agency of record. And so I was fortunate to join just at that critical moment of final decisions. And I have to say, the Arnold team absolutely shone through in that process. And so it was, when you find those partners that are like-minded, a great cultural fit, and really understood who PNC was at our core, it was just the right moment to partner. So we really came together, and a lot of this story starts with our onboarding journey together. Me as a new leader, getting to know PNC at the same time that we were onboarding the Arnold crew, and that just created a really nice opportunity for us to go through the cultural learning journey together.
Yeah, we were so fortunate to start at the same time and really have this blank slate in front of us. It felt like we had all the momentum, none of the baggage. And it's really fascinating when you go through a creative pitch process. Sometimes clients are looking for different things, but sometimes they're buying work and sometimes they're buying a partner. And I think from the very beginning, we knew that this was a marriage. This was a real partnership. From the Arnold perspective, we came in and we actually had, we think great work in the campaign. And we thought, we think we actually could get some of this into market. And Jenn came in and said, you know what? I love it. Let's go on the journey. I've got to onboard my team. We've all got to learn about the brand. It's so far reaching. It's, we now have that generosity of partnership and spirit. And we said, all right, let's go on this journey. But as the creative agency, we were actually we know what the answer is. We know what the campaign's going to be. And I got to tell you, it truly is destiny, because as we went on this journey, all of us were no, we can do so much better. And we just sort of found this insight. We found this truth about this brand, and it was just truly unignorable.
Yeah, I can imagine, if I'm going to my CEO and saying, hey, I want to do a national campaign and call ourselves boring, that might be a little bit of a tough sell. So can you sort of talk through where did you identify that human truth, and how did you get to where you had enough evidence to make this a successful campaign?
Yeah, I can talk about it from a cultural and consumer standpoint and customer, because it's not just consumers that PNC serves, but we really did let the audience guide us. We went and we talked to constituents internally, we talked to customers, we talked to consumers, we looked at culture at large. And, this was a time when, SVB had just failed, First Republic had just failed, like the sense of uncertainty, volatility, which I think has sort of, continued, was such a stark backdrop that we had. And what we realized is, in the face of uncertainty, like monotony, stability, that's actually quite aspirational. And it's really like the ultimate flex. And at the same time, we were learning about PNC and we were learning about these executives, and everybody was like semi sort of apologetic for just staying the course and just like you said, being nice, being amazing. Customers felt like they really got them. And it was like such a privilege from the outside in to be able to see what was going on in culture and being able to tell people internally, this is actually an incredible advantage that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like that was an inherent apologetic superpower. Like initially, people were shying away from that, and you're just really leaned into that.
I think that's right. And through that process of just the onboarding discovery sessions, actually being able to shine a spotlight on that, when you hear that consistent, self-evident truth, it's the sometimes you need someone else to play that back to you, to hold up the mirror, and you're like, oh yeah, we are kind of boring. But you know what? People are using that word boring, but what they mean is we have been steady, reliable, we are pragmatic, we work on behalf of our customers and clients. And so it really offered up that first nugget of, this is super authentic to who we are, and what a cool opportunity to redefine what we mean by boring. So that was kind of the start of the flex, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jen, I know that when we talked earlier, you had said that this obviously turned into an external campaign, but it actually made a lot of really inroads internally on helping people understand and get re-energized by working for PNC again. Can you talk a little?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of things that have been great, and we'll certainly talk about externally what this has done. But internally, first, we started with a operating principle as partners in this. I remember having a bunch of these conversations of, hey, meet us where we are as a business today, and I always want you guys to bring 2 and 3 clicks out of where we could be going. And so there was an internal journey that we went on with our executive team, with our business partners, of we can meet ourselves creatively where we are today. And that's probably going to look like more of the same, which has not historically been differentiated or breakthrough. And when you take another click out and another click out, it feels uncomfortable, but growth is going to happen through that discomfort. So there was one really great kind of strategic track for us internally of getting folks comfortable with being uncomfortable. The second is, once we finally rolled out this brilliantly boring platform, it was amazing watching our team's internal reaction of the commentary. For the first time, I see PNC showing up the way I see other big banks and other big brands. It gave name and life to the way that we already operate. It gave a little bit of swagger. And then there was fun. And we can talk about all that the humor and the emotion that sits under it. But I just think this has been such a culture carrier for us, and created permission for folks to think big and different without having to deviate from who we are and how we operate as a bank.
Yeah. I know one thing that we talked about as well is the speed at which you did this. So typically, as anybody who's an agency partner or brand out there, sometimes these things can be really lengthy processes, and sometimes you tend to lose that cultural moment in all of the back and forth and the debate and the emails and the Slack messages. So talk to us about how quickly this came together and how that kind of led to a success.
You want to relive that trauma first?
Yeah.
So, on the agency side, we'd been through a pitch, which is already quite an accelerated type of thing. And then we had a wonderful CMO coming in saying, let's go on this journey, let's on board. And we were amazing. And we put together this really long Gantt chart. And it was here's a multi-year process and what we're going to do. And Jen was totally, I get it. I love it.
6 months.
We got 6 months. And we were okay, cool. And she was no, 6 months until we're in market on air. And we were oh God, we're fucked.
Yeah.
But, to Jen's credit, she really mobilized the internal team, and like the executives were there literally the next week at the table, like Bill Demchek, CEOs, everyone's there. And we did this thing, walk the wall. The first thing we did was we said, okay, let's look at everything you've ever done. Like, have your executives ever looked at it? Like, let's look PNC really in the face and kiss it on the mouth. And we did. We printed out everything from the last year, from like below the line, in branches. We walked around and the executives said, I've never seen it. I've never seen it from this perspective. And that was like such a watershed moment. We did the same thing with the rest of the category. And we went on this accelerated journey, but it really was like a snowball kind of building momentum because people wanted to be involved. Like sometimes we forget as marketers, this is like the sexy part of the business. Yeah. It's the fun part. Like New Creative Day is some of the best day around. So like there was excitement and momentum, and seeing that like in the walls of a bank just gave our creative teams such excitement, such confidence. And I think it was just like exponential, and it had such a ripple effect within the walls of PNC.
Yeah. I also think concept to execution in 6 months is not something I would generally recommend. And frankly, not something I really want to do again. It was insanely intense, but I also think it was our secret weapon in this one because we just locked arms and said, the only way we are going to be able to deliver on this is to get incredibly tight. And it forced us to say, what are the jobs to be done? Where is this a strategy and influence job to be done? Where is this pitching like the big, bold, creative idea? Where is this like getting into brass tacks of how it's going to start showing up? And without that kind of focus, these things, you could stay in ideation for a long time. So there was also something, while incredibly intense, really beautiful in that forcing mechanism.
Yeah. I know that a lot of work that I've done throughout the years has been with heritage brands, trying to figure out how do they stay true to their brand identity while also attracting a new generation and a new generation. And if you're 160 years old, you've got a lot of brand identity that is built up. So Jenn, when you came in, you decided to completely reinvent what the brand was about. So how did you decide, like, what do you keep, what do you throw away, and like what do you sort of evolve? Like, can you talk through that process a little bit?
Yeah, it built on what Bree talked about with a lot of those interviews with our executives, with our team, and offering that constant playback. So this is not something that we were trying to do unto the organization, but rather enroll people on the journey. And for that, they needed to be able to see themselves in the brand. And that's where we got incredibly clear on this superpower of boring as a pragmatism, steady and reliable. But also the thing that's so special and people are really proud of at PNC is that we are a deeply relationship-based business. Yeah. We take a lot of pride in knowing our customers, our clients, providing a level of service that is really bespoke. And you get the benefits of, a bank with national scale, but with the, interaction of a local community-driven bank. Being able to help the organization see that in the positioning and the creative was a big part of this is going to amplify. Yeah. But I think that was it. It's like we've got to be willing to walk away from where the cow paths have been paved and the parts of process and go-to-market motions that feel like what a regional bank based in Pittsburgh used to feel like and no longer serve us. And so that it kind of did the self-sort very clearly of things that are near and dear and we want to elevate, and things that are like, that's got to go. We got to modernize, we got to grow, we got to scale.
Yeah. And Bree, it sounds like the relationship, so working with a relationship-based business, it sounds like you guys, you called yourselves married. So like, sounds like you've got a really nice relationship going. Like, what is that sort of like? I feel like that's sort of the dream in working with an AOR, is that you have somebody who's in it for the long haul. Can you kind of talk through like how this relationship is going to evolve and things that you have planned without giving us any trade secrets, of course?
No spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're incredibly fortunate, and some of it was circumstance. We started at the same time. We had this relentless focus. We had none of the baggage, but also I think that like this really feels like it was co-created, and it was co-created for the long term. It was purpose built, and I think just like all the credit to Jenn and her team, because it always felt like a partnership. Like it felt like come to the table and let's talk this through. And there was always the challenge, which is what you want creatively. Like show us what we asked for and then show us something else. And like when we presented this concept and this positioning and this idea, it was like something was kind of electric in the room. We have this thing over here that's like, brand book, and one of our creative directors, like, this was not an ask. We were just doing a regular creative presentation, and it was like, it just flowed out of him. This isn't your typical brand book. If you open it up, it has like Evel Knievel in it, and it talks about like the brilliance of vanilla as a flavor, and just like these amazing things. And he totally, like, not even asked for, conceived of this, printed it, and we shipped it because we were doing a virtual presentation to Jenn and to all of her team. And it was like, we all just felt so passionately about this. And the other thing I would say is, like, this wasn't just like a creative endeavor to be creative. It wasn't like, let's look at ourselves and do something that we think is really fun and we want to be a part of. It was like, the bar was never lowered. It was like, we don't have a lot of time, but like, we need to drive the business, and we need to reinvent the business, and we need the upward mobility. And by the way, the thing that was staring at us is, PNC is way outspent 2 times, 6 times, 8 times, 10 times versus the competition. So we had this incredible mandate that, like, we had to break through in a category that's really tough to get people to pay attention to. Yeah. And that bar never dropped, and it never has dropped. And if anything, I think we all want to keep raising it.
Yeah. I'd say the other side of that is, again, walking into the organization, marketing has historically operated as a delivery function. Right? We were shepherding campaigns through these go-to-market motions, and through this partnership, through this very happy marriage, right? Being able to rely on your partners for some strategic, creative stimulus, it just brought out something new in the team too, where we have team members who have been at the organization for 10, 15, 20 years, who have never had the opportunity to be a part of a conversation like this, of like, let's show the organization what we're capable of, let's show them what we could be like. And so building and retraining that muscle, and now having the permission to do that. And I think it's really exciting. It's not just, again, the brand and the platform, but it is changing the culture. It's changing the talent profiles of our marketing organization internally, and getting our marketing strategists back into the driver's seat of like, oh yeah, when we partner with the business, we are wearing that business strategy hat, and what else are we capable of doing? So there's just been all this goodness. And I think that really is a testament to the partnership of the willingness to push, to bring big new ideas, to talk it out and say, the answer might be no right now, but you've shown us something that's possible. And when you get those goosebump moments of like, yeah, that's not this quarter, but that is something we want to put on the roadmap, and let's go do that together. When can we make it happen? That has been super fun.
Yeah. That kind of alludes to one of the risks that I feel like could have come up in the room as like, the detractor in the room is if we call ourselves boring. You've translated boring into steady, but were you concerned at all about this steadiness not linking to the type of innovation that your customers and your clients are going to need to see from their financial institution? Were you concerned that message was going to get murky in there?
Yeah, that was a big concern for us, like right off the gate, culturally, is like the moment Bree described of when the first time we were in that creative presentation and Brilliantly Boring was pitched. It was like truly an electric moment where just the smiles and the laughs, like in that room, we were like, oh, this is something. And then it was like, oh shit, like how are we going to go socialize this and get people on board? Because it's exactly that. It's, people are going to be, some people are going to see it and be like, that's funny, that is dynamic, I'm ready to go there. And others will be like, but I'm not boring. And so there was a lot of thought through this internal brand book that Bree referenced and others of how do we help people see themselves in boring? And it's not calling ourselves boring in any sort of negative connotation. It's truly about boring as a philosophy and what it enables. And we did a lot of road showing and thinking about different internal kind of culture building so that people can see themselves in it. And it's not a scary, inaccessible thing. And then there's also like the platform just works creatively to be able to use it as a foil of, bet you didn't expect that from a boring bank. So lots of different ways we could flex it.
And I would just say, yes, we were terrified that we were going to go to the CEO and be like, good news, you're boring. But we were not terrified that it wouldn't land, because we had done, and we continue to do, a lot of research, and it resonated like gangbusters with the audiences that we wanted to attract and the audiences that we had. I mean, in this world of volatility, like when you talk about you want to be innovative, for the most part, people aren't out there saying, I want you to be innovative. They're saying, I want you to service me when it comes to a bank. I want to know that I can trust you. I want to know that you have my best interest at heart. And so they wanted trust, they wanted reliability. And yes, PNC is and continues to innovate, but we needed like a way to get there. And I just think that, culturally, innovation is aspirational, and culturally, boring, monotony, stability, when it comes to your money, is aspirational. So we just knew that we had to tell that story, and we had the benefit of data, and we had the benefit of Jenn and her team. But it is very scary to tell a CEO to stand up on stage, 6,000 people, and tell them, good news, you are all boring. But the way that we have reclaimed and made that word and that philosophy mean something different is really kind of incredible.
And that was one of the other hallmark moments, right? When we sold this in, I remember bringing this to Bill, our CEO, and he was like, all right, if we're going to do this, like, what do we have to do? And I was like, you have to be willing to stand on stage at a corporate town hall and wear your brilliantly boring t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I meant it metaphorically, but I was also like, no, but for real, like, I'm going to print t-shirts. And quite literally, the week before our external launch, we did the first ever internal town hall fully dedicated to the brand launch. And Bill was up there and all of our executive team wearing their brilliantly boring t-shirts. And so now we've got kind of the internal t-shirt metric of, it's the hottest selling item in our internal corporate store because, folks want to wear the brand. They want to rep it.
Yeah. I remember when we had that meeting with Bill at Arnold, it was actually the night of our holiday party. And it was like a 6 p.m. conversation. A bunch of us were like huddled in a room, and Bill's like, all right, print the t-shirts. And we were all like, okay. And we like closed the computer, and we were all like, we can't go to the party. And we went down to studio and we started printing the t-shirts and we shipped them.
Yeah, that's great. So one of the themes that I've kind of seen here throughout Brand Innovators, through lots of discussions and also some of the folks up here on stage, is sort of this hearkening back to brand storytelling that we've gotten so caught up in performance, and particularly when you think about creators and things like that, you're thinking about the followers and the performance and not necessarily connecting that back to the authenticity of the brand. So I'm super jazzed that you guys are telling a revitalized brand story. That's awesome. But I do know that you do have some performance metrics that you can share. So how has this performed out in the marketplace?
Like gangbusters. My finance metric that I'm so excited because like the hallmark of any great campaign is when your CMO can go talk to your CFO and be like, so let's talk about the numbers. So 12% increase in our return on ad spend compared to prior campaign, highest positive social sentiment that we have seen historically ever. We are doing some more advanced measurement where we're attributing how much our deposit growth can be attributed to the brand, seeing great lift there. Yeah. And then our brand perception, that was one of the big things. Like job number one was people need to know who PNC is. My shorthand was always, we need to move from PNC ? To PNC period, and ultimately to PNC exclamation point. We have moved from PNC ? To period with growth in our brand awareness, but it's also now the perception. So the brand lift of signaling that we are a big national bank, a bank that I trust. I am a bank, or is a bank for someone like me. So really excited that we have laid out a really robust measurement plan, and we are seeing all of the right movement that we expect. And frankly, like we're just at the beginning of this thing. There is so much runway of what we are excited to unpack and develop together. So to see those early indicators, we're incredibly excited.
I will say, one thing that I think we did, which was really important, is from the start, we said we have to develop this brand narrative, and it has to be durable, and it has to be ownable, and it has to be differentiated. But from the very start, we said we believe in the power of brand and performance. And so we said we need to set out a way to measure the impact of brand across the business. Yeah. And so when we started on this journey, we started with that too. We didn't just go, okay, well, let's do positioning and let's do measurement once we have the plan. We early on said, how do you actually measure brand equity? So the fact that we have those systems in place is really powerful, and I think has been a way to reach across the aisle and bring finance into the conversation from the very start.
Yeah. Well, I'm personally looking forward to seeing PNC exclamation point. Woo! I think we have some time for questions. Does anybody have any questions for Jenn or Bree?
I'm curious, how did you choose your spokesperson for the campaign?
Oh. Do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think we would definitely not use the word spokesperson. And we had a lot of conversation very early on about like the value of celebrity or not including celebrity. And to be candid. I think we could have done it with or without celebrity. It didn't come down to that. It came down to an ownable, durable campaign platform. And I think when it came to the actual ads, we had a lot of conversation about like the right sort of tone. We used words like brand muse. Ultimately, I think, we felt like celebrity in this instance, although there's been a significant body of work that doesn't include any celebrity, was really valuable to us just based on, breakthrough and differentiation and the launch of the campaign.
It was also just important internally because we had never even contemplated using celebrity talent for advertising in the past. So there was also an element of it we felt very confident it could hold with or without that element. But we thought it was important to try to push while we were making these big strides together. And Chris Diamantopoulos, I don't know if you guys are Silicon Valley fans and others and have seen him, but what a lovely human. And so if you just kind of complete the trifecta of all the love fest and the happy marriage, it's really nice when you have someone to work with who's equally just a wonderful, authentic human. And so there's something very beautiful about how that all came together and how he was able to help and represent the PNC brand in that ad.
He was a really great guy. It was like on set, he unsolicited, filmed this love letter back to the agency about how much fun he had on set and how great this concept was, how much he loved it. It was just really, he was like, I get the creative business, go and play it for your agency. And it was just lovely.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm curious, when you were coming up with the brilliantly boring tag, were there others in consideration that you were thinking about?
Oh, great question.
Great question. Yeah, we had, in that spirit of meet us where we are today, show us a couple clicks out, we ended up with 3 primary concepts that were in, I'd call, varying levels of progressive. One which felt very much like, here's where we are today. And I want to give the team really good credit that they brought 3 really robust ideas to the table that all could have worked, but it was kind of safe, more progressive, and really pushing us out there. And that actually became a big part of the socialization and enrollment process. Was we started this by saying we had 4 jobs to be done in delivering on this brand platform. 1, we needed to do something that was competitively edged. We need to punch above our weight. We need to differentiate across brands and banks that are, spending 8x what we're spending. Yep. We need this to be customer led and work for across all of our different client bases. We needed to be creatively potent, starting to introduce some of the humor and the emotion behind it. And it needs to be credible to PNC. So something PNC and only PNC could do. And that really became the rubric that we held across the 3 ideas. And it became very clear as we did that, married it with the testing that Bree talked about. You were at the half Harvey ball, across those 4 dimensions. And as we played that back to our executive team and said, if we're making this investment and the goal is growth, distinction, and resonance, it is so clear that Brilliantly Boring is the only truly unique and ownable space for us. So we did have a range, and that actually became very strategic in the socialization of how we got to Brilliantly Boring.
Awesome.
Very quick question. You said there was the safe, a little bit pushing, and the furthest out. Which one was this one?
This was the furthest out.
Furthest out.
So we had This Is Big, right, which was just a nod to one, we want to play on the word big because we want to signal that we are in fact a big national bank. But the idea of you could look at the seams of human moments, and it's not just the marriage, birth of a child. It's anything that is big to you could be a big moment that we are a part of supporting what you need. There was For All That You Value, and there was a very fun concept there that was almost like the math of each of our lives, our financial lives, and there was equations and things that we could have fun. And then there was Brilliantly Boring, and so the This Is Big felt the closest to where we are, but felt like it had the least ownable space for us than going out to Brilliantly Boring, which is
we went pretty far. We developed all this, a lot of work in this 6 months. And I will say, as an agency, we did love all, you can't choose amongst your children. We did love all of those concepts. And I think when we went into that meeting with Bill, we didn't think there was any way that he was going to choose Brilliantly Boring, because just everyone we talked to said, I love it, but it made them so uncomfortable. There was just such discomfort as we went through, and people said, keep going. Good luck to you.
We had the 3. We were hoping to land the second concept. We didn't want to necessarily land the first because we didn't think it pushed us far enough. And we were thrilled when we started getting the first head nods. We're like, oh, people are going.
We're going to do it.
We're gonna run through that door. It was like the Kool-Aid man busting through the brick wall. We were going for it.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. So in the spirit of giving things away for free with the free pizza and the free light strike, Jenn, you're going to give everyone a small business loan? Is that?
Of that free checking account.
Free whatever
Really
it is that you
exciting
want.
giveaways.
So,
Woo!
come on to PNC. Awesome. Thank you for this discussion.
Thanks, Phil.
Give them a round of applause,
you.
everybody. This
Thank
was
you.
awesome. Cool.